Have you ever thought about how your race will impact your college application? Most Americans believe racial diversity on college campuses is a good thing. However, an equal number of Americans oppose the use of race in college admissions, including majorities of Black, Hispanic, and Asian Americans. The legal battle over factoring race in admission in higher education has been ongoing for decades, and later this month, the Supreme Court will decide whether to overrule more than 40 years of precedent to declare that admission policies must be race-blind. Could this reshape the college admission process? While each college varies, when submitting your application for college, it is advised that you provide transcripts from your high school or equivalent, standardized test scores, letters of recommendation, a list of extracurricular activities, and a personal essay.
Every college and university can have their own application, meaning their own questions, data fields, etc., and then their own process whereby they review applications. So that is race ethnicity. That's also socioeconomic status. It's diversity in every way possible. That really does benefit students and create the rich learning environment that colleges really want to be. It really does show that students learn more, perform better, and kind of leave more equipped for the real world, which is a diverse real world, when they have students from a wide range of backgrounds in every sense of the word.
Sometimes positive or affirmative steps are required to bring about meaningful equality, whether we're talking about workplaces or educational institutions or government contracting. So that's the basic idea of affirmative action.
The term affirmative action can be traced back to an executive order issued by President John F. Kennedy. It means requiring the government and government contractors to take affirmative steps to prohibit discrimination.
But quickly, it sort of morphed into the idea not just of banning discrimination, but taking positive steps to be sure that workplaces reflect the diversity of the country, that educational institutions reflect the diversity of the country. Affirmative action can take the form of quotas, right? Say a workforce or a student body in which there are a certain number of seats set aside for individuals of particular racial groups. But affirmative action today basically never looks like that in the United States. And that's because the Supreme Court has basically said it can't.
It began when the University of California Medical School at Davis denied admission to Bakke, but accepted 16 minority students, some of whom were less qualified, under an affirmative action program. Bakke called that reverse discrimination and took his case to the U.S. Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court sided with him. So it agreed that a quota system like that violated the Constitution because it just treated people as basically reducible to their racial groups. But the Supreme Court also said, we are not holding that no programs that are race conscious could ever survive. It's just that this program that had a quota attached to it was constitutionally problematic.
If schools are not using quota-based systems in the admission process, how are they accounting for race? Harvard University has said it believes in a whole person admission process, but some believe race shouldn't be considered in the admission process at all.
I'd definitely say I was above average. I got a 1590 on the SAT. I didn't do that many competitions and things like that because I was playing golf instead, and then I just ended up applying normally and then got rejected. I applied to Harvard, MIT, Caltech, and Princeton. Personally, I do think race does play some part into it because I do know people of like sort of other ethnicities that that I was like at least comparable with, if not like slightly better, that did end up getting in. So
in November 2014, two cases were presented to the Supreme Court again. Students for Fair Admission, which lists itself as a conservative and a multiracial coalition of students and parents, sued Harvard University and University of North Carolina, alleging intentional discrimination towards Asian American applicants in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Both schools denied the allegations. UNC stated, "We do not use race or ethnicity as a dominant or defining feature," while Harvard says, Harvard does not discriminate against any group in its admission practices, reinforcing consideration of race as one factor among many in a whole person admission process.
What's tricky is that these schools really do use these many multi-factor sort of admissions criteria, and they're able in basically every instance to say, well, this one candidate, like Wright, might have had very strong test scores, but we're looking at a lot of different factors, and because we are, there's no way you have made out a statistical showing that in the aggregate, or even in any individual case, we are discriminating.
And this year, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to determine the future of race-based affirmative action in higher education across America.
I talked about being African American in my essay. I talked about how my race had impacted the ways that I interacted with my classmates and with the material that we studied in school. And so for me, an admissions officer being willing to and able to see my race was pretty central to my application.
Common App, the undergrad college application used by 1,000 schools across the country, just announced that it's going to allow participating colleges and universities to hide race and ethnicity information on applicants starting August 1st. In anticipation of Supreme Court ruling to end affirmative action, several schools are getting ready to discontinue the use of standardized test scores, legacy admissions, and early decision programs.
If the court rules that race must be taken out of the consideration process, I worry that it will remove a valuable way that students who come from underrepresented, or I'll call it non-traditional backgrounds, are able to let colleges know that there's a history and a background that they bring to college that may be different than other students.
Universities are not just about, training students in substantive subject matter areas. They're about much more, and that's exactly why these universities say we have to be able to look at things about the full person, and race is always going to be one part of that.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.